Hello there. So you may remember from last month that we had a special two-part series where we had Justin Stanton on as our special guest. And so this month, this is part two of that interview and conversation with Justin. So thank you very much again for subscribing to ITPR Unpacked. Please do remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and enjoy the second part of this series of ITPR Unpacked. So, welcome again to the ITPR studio.
Again?
Yes, this month we are talking about the impact that PRs can
Mm.
have with journalists and how best we can make
Yeah.
create an impact with journalists. And I'm very pleased to say we are joined by a special guest today to dig into this topic.
We are indeed.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who is watching. And listening to the podcast, our numbers are going up, which is really
They
good.
are, yep.
So please do like, share, subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and now on Spotify
Yep.
as well. And they're always available on our website as a back catalogue,
They
should
are.
anyone. So, Anthony, without any further ado, shall we get started?
Let's unpack it, shall we? Speaking of pitches, what's the best one you've ever received?
Well, yeah, that I spent a long time when you sent that question in advance to me. I spent a long time thinking about that. A lot, a lot of pitches in the good old bad old days were, of course, meant going out and going somewhere and doing something and interviewing someone somewhere.
Yeah.
And there was a great guy, Keith, I forget his surname, in the housewares sector in the 90s. He knew how journalists were wired in every sense. So he had a client in Dublin, and it was a lunchtime flight from London City to Dublin. Get to the hotel, check in, have a 90-minute press conference, then straight to the pub, then to dinner, and then to a club for a live gig, which happened to be with the drummer from Thin Lizzy. So that was a great night, and then it was a late checkout the next
Yeah,
morning,
yeah.
and flight home. And he got the coverage he needed, and relationships were built
Yep.
between the journalist and his client, and he reinforced his value to his client and to the journalist,
Yeah,
etc.
yeah.
So it was a chance for everyone to get to know each other
Yep.
rather than it's just purely business.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you're done in
Mm.
2 minutes on the phone. But I think, and again, there was a good, the kitchenware supplier Bodum pitched a trip there and back to Copenhagen to their Halo store, and they were right to be confident about how good their store was.
Yeah.
Because I ended up doing six pages on it. Their photography was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was great. But I think I was trying to think. A lot of the best pitches tend to be feature pitches rather than news pitches, because the nature of my roles over the 30 years have been been primarily news driven, and news is primarily bad news. You're
Yeah.
writing nasty stories about nasty people. You
Yeah,
write company
yeah, yeah.
collapses, financial losses, failures, etc. So a lot of pitches are more feature based, more long form interview based.
Yeah.
But some of the best. I was trying to think, what are the best features that I've done that I enjoyed writing, and I went to the Tour de France in 2009 with the logistics supplier. I can't remember which one of us came up with the idea, whether I begged and pleaded
Yeah.
as a cycling nutter,
Yeah.
or whether they pitched it to me. I was like, yes, you're pitching it to exactly
Yeah.
the right person.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I will be there. I interviewed the chief truckie, effectively the head of logistics at Jordan F1, and I'm a F1 nut.
Right, yeah.
But I think I pitched it in rather than it being pitched by
Yeah.
the truck supplier to the team. One PR in the construction industry for a well-known top 10 contractor that still exists did ask if a bottle of bubbly was enough of a bribe to get their story onto the front page.
Right.
It was not.
No.
Noted.
Okay. Just talking about the front page and the evolution of it's gone from print to digital now. How, what's your view on backlinks? And so when we send press releases, quite often we include backlinks. for referential purposes, because it's easier for journalists just to click on, especially if we've got a statistic in there from a
Yeah.
report, they
Yep.
want to see where the source is. So and I think that verifies the stat and the validity of the story, because we're basing it on other research. But more specifically, links to the client's website. What are your thoughts on including links in your stories?
Very good question. For SEO purposes, you need at least one outbound link.
Yeah. Okay.
And you need at least one inbound link. Because I'm covering digital construction, a lot of it is about technology.
Yeah.
And you cannot assume that every single one of your readers knows every single supplier out there. It was Digital Construction Week a few weeks ago, and you look at the exhibitor list. Like, I know them. I know. No, there's at least 20 names I've never heard of. Yeah. And that's going to be the same for your readers. So, as far as I'm concerned, if it's Joe Blogg's IT is supplying construction management software to Jane Doe Construction, then I'd put a link in for Jane Doe Construction, and whether a link was supplied or not, I'd put a link in for Joe Blogg's construction management software company. If the content does reference a particular statistic, a particular government report or initiative, then by all means do supply that link, and I may use it, I may not use it.
Yeah.
If it's something that it's like, no, actually, look, 99% of the readers know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't need to link to it. If it's something they don't, again, if it's something I think they don't know, then I'll provide that link. And particularly if you get into some hard science,
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this one in, muon tomography. Let's not delve
No.
into that. Let's do that on a
Okay.
different podcast, what muon tomography is. But I didn't know what it was, so I had to look it up. So when I published that story that mentioned muon tomography, I put
Great word, by the way.
It is.
It is. You'll be using it later tonight. I went to Wikipedia and searched it there, and so I just put in the Wikipedia link
Yeah.
as the best way of explaining that bit of technology. So
Yeah.
so I am very happy to do stuff proactively myself in terms of putting the links in. I think the one that gets journalists' backs up is the SEO agency.
The follow-up phone call. So can you put the link in?
But not necessarily from the PR, but from the company's
SEO
is
team.
retaining some SEO agency.
Yeah.
And we've spotted that you ran our story 3 years ago. Can you put this link in?
Yeah.
No.
No.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry.
We always stress to clients, because we have some clients that will say, "Oh, brilliant piece of coverage that Justin's ran, for example. Could we ask,
Unlikely for them to say that, but yeah.
can we just have that link in?" So we're very much, it's a journalist discretion.
Yes.
It's up to them. We can't force that, and then it's our relationship with them. So I don't want to be the one to be like, "Hi, Jim," because it's always that tricky trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Relationship.
I mean, include the links in the press release,
Oh,
in the content,
absolutely,
in the email. Absolutely do that, because then we've got
have
the
the
journalist has the choice. Am I
Yeah.
including that link or am I not?
Yeah.
Exactly. Justin, I have to ask, and it makes me feel a little bit sick, but I'm going to ask anyway. On the odd occasion, clients have maybe asked if they could see sight of copy before it goes live. Nothing, and not a fan of it myself at all. But what's your view on that? Dare I ask, as his eyebrow raises?
No. It's a thorny issue, isn't it? It was 15 months into my first job before I was asked for sight of copy. So that would be late 1995. It was a profile of the first Robert Dyer store to be significantly rebranded. Now, this is pre-internet, so I didn't know much about the full history or context of the business and the rebrand. The head of comms asked for sight of copy after we'd conducted the interview, but because they were an important reader, I thought, well, okay. So I sent it off. I said, obviously for fact checking only.
Yeah.
And he came back and he had corrected a few facts. Some of which might have been my mistake, some of which might have been the person I've been interviewing. But he made some changes to my opening para, where he thought I'd been unfair, and used language that conveyed sort of an unfair comparison. And initially that stung. I was like, oh, you're not changing my copy.
Yeah.
But then I took a deep breath, reread his reasoning. And he was right. I didn't know the full history. I didn't have the full context. So what I was saying was effectively wrong. It wasn't fair. It was wrong.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I went ahead and made the change. No copy's perfect.
No.
No matter what a journalist thinks, their copy
Mm-hmm.
is never perfect. Every bit, every sentence, every
Mhm.
paragraph can be improved. Every clause, every subclause can be improved. So in an ideal world, no one would ever ask for sight of copy.
Yeah.
No.
It indicates that either you don't trust the journalist,
Mm.
or perhaps even worse, you don't trust your client, or the
Yeah.
client doesn't trust themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and again, having been on both sides of
Mm.
this one, I think I can understand everyone's point of view. And especially in the day and age we are now in, where supposedly reasonable people become raging keyboard warriors and immediately sound off on LinkedIn. Whoa! So if your client has used the wrong turn of phrase that provokes a keyboard warrior,
Yeah.
how do you get that rabbit back in the hat? How do you deal with that minor crisis or whatever?
Yeah.
So it's creating disturbance and disruption you don't want, don't need, and that potentially you wouldn't have had in the old print days, perhaps, other than once it was in print, there it lived forever, whereas at least there's a chance to correct something once it's online. So I think if your client wants to deal closely with journalists and is going to be doing lots of interviews with journalists, and if they've never done a media interview training before,
Yeah.
they might have presentation skills. They might have done that course, but have they sat with a national newspaper journalist and just had them bark questions?
Yeah.
Jeremy
Yeah.
Paxman, did you threaten to overrule? Did you threaten to overrule?
Yeah.
If they've not had that treatment, then perhaps they ought to have that as
Yeah.
as part of their job, because you'll never get a B2B journalist being that nasty, probably. And I think if you're going to ask for sight of copy, please do so in advance of agreeing the interview.
Right.
And again, as you said, it's only for a fact check.
Yeah,
It's only for
absolutely.
a
Yeah.
fact check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think most vitally, commit to getting the copy back within a reasonable time. Now, I'm going to say a week.
Wow.
Wow.
That's generous.
That,
Well,
I was
I-
gonna say 24, 40.
Well,
I-
48
Yeah,
hours
48
again.
hours,
yeah.
yeah.
I say that because we've had 3 months, 4 months
Wow.
waiting
Really?
for
No
copy
way.
to come back.
Yeah.
And that's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And in some case, we've had to resort to the mildest of threats. Well, we're going to publish in 48 hours
Yeah.
if you don't come back,
Yeah.
because you've had plenty of time to respond.
Well, it's within your gift to publish, surely, because you.
Yeah, I think it comes back to relationships again.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. Yeah.
if you're asking to see the copy ahead of time,
Yeah.
then you're worried. There's something I think you're worried there initially. If the journalist is kind enough to say, "Yep, that's fine, check it, fact check it," then don't sit on it for a week, because
Yeah.
then you're not showing that it's not even that important
There's no
anymore,
respect,
is
is
it?
there?
Because
Yeah.
well, why are you asking me to? If you're not even going to read it after it's been sat with you for a week, why are you even asking to see it? Because
Yeah.
you're clearly not interested in seeing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So I think it has to be a mutual respect thing.
Absolutely. And when I was doing your job, we always said to new clients, here's the things we won't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We won't chase, and we won't ask for sight of copy.
Yeah.
Because it causes embarrassment on both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah, very
Very
rarely.
rarely, yeah.
Very rarely, I will say, do we even get asked to sign a copy, because a lot of our
Right.
clients understand that.
I've had-
that's
you
good.
know,
That's good.
I've
and
had
they're briefed ahead
Yeah,
of time.
very
we always
well
tell
briefed.
them, we give them the key messages and what it's all about, and we always say, you're always on record. So if you don't want anything in print, don't say it.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of rule that we live by.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been asked, I think, in this last year 3 times by journalists to get something checked, but it's been, did I capture that particular fact? And case in point, I think X 100 should have been X 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
and people don't often say numbers correctly, do they? And,
Correct.
And if
And
you
it was
then take it down,
transcribed, it was on Teams, and
Yeah.
the journalist in question said, I just want to check because it doesn't seem right.
Mhm.
And it wasn't, it was 1,000 rather than 100, and that's because they picked up on the audio. So in
Yeah.
those instances, great, you've got, and I turn it around on a sixpence because it's what you need to do.
Yeah.
I would never have said, excuse me, this is a bit.
Yeah. Or I mean, where you're having a long conversation with an MD or chief exec or director, whatever, and at some point they say, look, I need to go off the record here.
Yeah.
That's fine. You're off the record. It's still being recorded, but it's off the record. I
Yeah.
know it's off the record.
Yeah.
But then you get to that point where it's then unclear, when are we back on the record?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
so one did back in the print days, one interviewee did query and just say, I said that was off the record. And I said, here's the tape.
Yeah.
You're off the record, off the record. You said we're back on the record.
Yeah.
So they'd made it clear themselves.
Wow.
But so I was able to play the tape back, the cassette on
That's
my Walkman,
interesting.
play it back at them.
I've always advised clients, don't ever say, I want to go off the record.
Because that's the juicy stuff, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's right, then Justin listens in a bit more now.
A little bit. It's like,
Leaning forward.
Tell me more.
Everything is. We'd always say in same briefings, assume everything is on the record.
Yeah,
From
it
the
has to be.
hi, very nice to meet you, to physically you've left the room or you've left the virtual
their
room.
manners at lunch or whatever it is.
The classic Gordon Brown microphone on calling that lady
Bigoted
a
woman.
bigot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because,
all those off air that isn't off air if it's being recorded.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's the same.
What do you
deal.
mean the mic's still live? It's that sort of.
Yeah.
I want to just jump back slightly. So we talked about engaging with journalists.
Yes.
And we've met at several shows.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on trying to meet with clients, do interviews at shows? You're smiling because I think I know the answer, but I think it's important we discuss because I think there's different views. But go on, what do you think?
Absolutely. So my very first trade show was in 1994 as a journalist in the NEC for 3 days. And that particular job on Housewares magazine I did for 4 years meant that you did 2 visits to NEC, one to Milan, one to Portugal, one to Chicago or San Francisco. You had about 6-7 trade shows a year. And at the end of the day, people are at trade shows, companies are at trade shows, they exhibit at trade shows, they spend an awful lot of money at trade shows in order to get clients, to get potential clients, to get the contact details, to have the meetings, etc. No business was ever done at a trade show. That's a lie. We all know that, etc., etc. But it's the contacts that are made, the further discussions that are had, etc. That's what they're there for. Those back in the 90s, you as a journalist, you registered, you went into the press office, you literally shoveled up the press releases.
Yeah,
they went in a suitcase. Literally, the international shows, they provided you with a flat pack IKEA style cardboard at the Chicago and San Francisco shows, and you just threw everything in, put your address on it, and it arrived 2 weeks later. So at least you had the press releases and you had the photos, etc. But I remember one of a big supplier, and they'd set aside a time for me to interview whoever I was meant to be interviewing. And so we're sat down and they've got me a cup of tea and with literally 2 questions into the interview, their biggest customer rocks up. I was dropped.
Really?
That's it. Oh, so-and-so's here.
Ooh.
That's it. I was like, well, no, I understand because they're the single most important person here. In that sense, quote unquote, I don't matter. And the reality is at exhibitions, and particularly in those older exhibition halls, the recirculated air, the lack of daylight. You're at a show. Probably every night is a late night. Every morning's an early morning. You're sleeping in a hotel bed that you don't find comfortable. So you're never. The journalist is never. I would suggest is never on top form. Probably the person from the exhibitor isn't on top form. The PR may not be on top form. So you're not going to get necessarily a great interview. I record interviews in a room like this, perfectly sound protected. Great, that'd be fantastic. But you're in a huge dome, concrete everywhere, and you've got half an inch of not much carpet. So the sound when you play back is appalling, and inevitably you're running late for any appointment you make. Because you've bumped into someone in the hallway, in the corridor, or quick conversation. Oh no, I'm now already 15 minutes late, or they're late, whatever. So basically, the last few years, what I've said is I don't do interviews at trade shows. Happy to have a chat. And let's make it. It's between 4 and 4:15. Well, the kettle will be on. We'll be waiting for you. The biscuit will be ready. And it'll just be a 15-minute chat, and we can talk about either what you're showing at the show, or there's something else coming up that you want to try and sort of brief and pitch me about. We'll do that in a month's time after the show, in the right circumstances. And I know that it may not be that other journalists feel the same, but certainly that's my position. And certainly with the there's only really one exhibition I go to in my space, Digital Construction Week, and that is more about the presentations, the seminars, the panel discussions. So this year, the morning of the first day was block booked with back to back presentations.
Yeah.
Then you got a lunch break. Then I was running a session myself. Then we were having the shortlist awards drinks, so which I had to be on our stand to help run that and meet and greet and press the flesh. And then it's the end of the show.
Yeah.
And then the next day, it's only a 2-day show, but we all know what shows are like. Whatever the last day is, it's still a bit busy in the morning, and then it's quiet in the afternoon.
It's off in the afternoon,
So what I did was, again, the morning was mostly presentations and panel discussions, and then the afternoon was actually meetings. But again, just chit chat in that sense, meetings, no formal interviews.
Yeah.
Because again, you've had 2 days at the show. Well, when are you going to get a chance to write it up? You've been at the show for 2 days, and again, it's that. Yes, it's bringing the industry together, so it's a great chance to shout about something, but shout about it in advance. There's no don't press release the single biggest announcement you're going to make all year at the show. At the show, let me know in advance, because I'm not going to be at my computer for 2 days effectively. So you try and get that message out. It doesn't always succeed. So there were 1 or 2 announcements during the show. There was like, I need to find some time over lunch. I've got to bash that one out. But I think shows really are for companies to pitch their wares, their services to their potential customers.
Yeah, we've
and the journalists are, in the nicest possible sense, saying it as a journalist myself, we're interlopers.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because we sometimes see events as a great opportunity because you'll have the execs there, and we'll know that they're going to be there months in advance. And so what we do is we say, but we need, the morning of the first day blocked out so they don't get any of the other meetings in, because this is when we're going to try and pitch to get journalists to come along. And through our own experience, we've realized if it's a 2-day show, I'd say 95% of journalists will go on day 1, and they won't go on day 2. So we're like, okay, well, we need to get them in early in the morning, like you say, like they're fresh in the morning because they've not spent all day marching around the hallways. But it's great for the 9 o'clock, or the 9:30 is usually when the doors open. The 9:30 appointment, great. And then you're always chasing your tail after that because, like you say, people bump into somebody. And the execs like, I've got back to backs. Why is he not here? And you're kind of stuck there going, it's a big show. He's probably been delayed, and the journalist, the one turns up at 5 minutes late or 10 minutes late. The other one following him is on time. So then you're just staggered, and it can become a logistical nightmare.
And it begins to look like how we know all celebrity Hollywood movie promotion interviews are done. They're sat in one chair, and there's 32 journalists that get 5 minutes each. And it's so inhuman, and it's so you don't get anything fresh or spontaneous. I mean, let's be clear. I have conducted interviews at shows. I mean, you had to. So that was big shows with really big stands where effectively they would have mini offices behind, and you'd have a bit of sound suppression going on. And at least you're away from the hubbub. You cannot be disturbed other than someone knocking on the door and saying to the MD, "Oh, Joe Bloggs is here." They're not happy.
Time to go. And your point about making an announcement as well. I think it's so. I have a slightly different view. Good to make it on and not at the show per se, but on the day of the show. But as we spoke about earlier, the embargoes, giving it to those target journalists, 3-4 days ahead of time.
Exactly.
Saying, we're going to announce this at the show, but here it is in advance. So you can write it up in advance, have it all ready,
and just hit go.
Hit the button on the day. We found it to be a much better way. And then you use that platform. And then to your point about the reports, if the journalist is at the show, you have printed copies at the report, and you give them a copy of the report. Thanks very much. Saw the story this morning online. Here's the copy of the printed report. You can have a read of it as you wander around. That has worked well in the past.
And I think you make a key point about the embargo there, that it's not the embargo isn't sending the press release out at 4 p.m. the day before for a 9 a.m. or a 6 a.m. or a 1 minute past midnight. And I fully appreciate there are times that the client takes
Yeah,
forever,
sometimes it's
multiple
Sometimes
levels
it's
of
impossible, yeah.
approval,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the MD's gone on holiday and all that stuff. And so, but at least a minimum 24 hours,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and better than
Yeah.
better than that is the
Yeah,
journalist's
48
ideal.
hours is what we
48
only
I
like
like to
minimum
go to.
48, don't
Yeah,
we,
And
really?
then you have the occasional, it's under embargo, oh, it's changed. Ugh,
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
But no,
yeah.
48 hours is good because that allows the questions to be asked.
Yes.
And then the angles, as you were saying, to
Yeah,
be written up.
yeah.
And just whilst we're talking embargoes for a second, you fully respect the embargo
I have
arrangement?
never broken an embargo in my life. I know journalists who have.
Yeah.
And then you have that difficult issue among the journalists who then didn't break the embargo and know that their rival has broken the
Yeah.
embargo.
Yeah.
You chose.
Well, how do you penalise them? Well, the
Yeah.
story's now out there, so I'm not going to sit on the embargo any longer. The story's out there. I'm
Yeah.
going to have to run it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we'll all have to break your embargo.
Yeah.
But when you go back to the print days and with the time lag
Oh,
between,
goodness, yeah.
between going to press and the mag landing. So in those days, in the noughties in construction, there was me on Construction Journal, Contract Journal. There was we went to press Monday, came out Wednesday. There was Construction News, went to press Tuesday, came out Thursday, and there was
Yeah.
Building Magazine, went to press Wednesday, came out Friday.
Yeah.
So that the competition, the rivalry was seriously intense, and it was a proper rivalry. You wanted to thrash them into the dirt, at minimum. And some journalists had a reputation for breaking embargoes.
Yeah.
But because you're one of the top three on one of the top three titles, how does the PR or their client penalise you by saying, well, we're not going to send you our information ever again?
Because we need you.
It's like,
It's like-
so
Yeah.
again, it's that what is the penalty?
Yeah. So just spare a thought for the PR at the other end who's being flogged by the client for the
Yeah.
news going out before
Yeah.
the client was ready.
Yeah, and particularly if it involves a client and their client.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is, but also having then become a company director and been involved in the buyout of a company. So again, having to operate under embargo, and there's stuff that as a director you are privy to.
Yeah.
Some of which may be under NDA with the funding party or the person you're buying out from, etc. There's stuff that's under NDA. It cannot be discussed.
Yeah.
So again, having that side of it as well, I fully appreciate what you're saying, and if something leaks out, it's like it can't afford for it.
Can't afford it.
Cannot afford for it to leak out because that could scupper the entire deal.
Yeah. It's just that we do more and more engagement with European journalists now, and so we're learning how the European journalists operate and what they prefer as well. And we have been advised recently that Germany, for example, they don't really bother with embargoes. They don't see the point in them. They don't abide by them too much. They would rather get the release on the day and then run it almost instantly.
Right. Okay.
Which we were like, that was our reaction. Okay. They don't really respect embargoes. So, it's a different landscape for sure.
Yeah. Certainly from my experience of 20 years ago, it was often perceived, and from a British journalist's point of view, that the continental European press, and certainly the further east you went in Europe, the less not sophisticated, but the less independent they were.
Right.
Even the best read titles were just reprinting press releases. Just
really, right? Yeah.
Yeah. They wouldn't. A British journalist wouldn't necessarily recognise their oppo from France or from Germany or Italy or Spain. Wouldn't necessarily. I recognise that you've got editor in the title. I recognise that you edit that title, but you're not doing anything like what we're doing.
Yeah.
The level of attempt at independence, the level to interrogate, the level the desire to establish some kind of fact or truth.
Yeah. Just
very very little of that back in my day. I don't know what it's like now.
Yeah, well, I think it's changing all the time, and we're certainly learning more as we kind of foray into the European market and do them with European press. And we've covered a lot of ground, so we're getting towards the end.
Yeah.
But I do have one question, and we can't escape the question really. In the era that we're in, it's around AI and the use of AI. We hear conversations now all about obviously AI generated content, and I guess I just wanted your view on whether you think has it had a good or bad impact
Mm.
on journalism, and is AI created content a good thing or a bad thing?
So we've just added to our T's and C's something about AI.
Right.
Okay.
So for those submitting material to us, words, images, whatever, to declare if they've used AI in
Yeah.
the
Okay.
research, preparation, proofing, etc. Uh, if we suspect AI has been used and it hasn't been declared, we'll probably investigate further. And there are various tools you can use in order to
Yeah.
run copy in and
Yeah. Check it.
90% likelihood this is AI generated.
Yeah.
Um, so because as with all uses of AI, where's the human involvement?
Yeah.
What was it curated? Was it checked?
Mm.
What was input into the AI in the first place?
Yeah. What were the prompts?
So in the past 18 months, when I've been using AI myself or been on the back end of someone else's use of AI, clear hallucinations
Right.
where the AI's got it completely wrong. And in 2 or 3 cases, I was able to, just for sake of 5 minutes desk research, was able to source
Oh wow.
effectively where the AI had got its hallucination from, because
Mm.
effectively there were only 3 sources for that particular subject,
Yeah.
that topic, that detail, that niche, and you could see how a lot of industry acronyms being used got the AI confused, and it came and black and white became red, and 2 plus 2 became 5,000.
Yeah.
Without the AI ability to recognise the fact that that's obviously a nonsense. That said, there's been some limited examples I've seen of AI being used to draw ideas and common themes out of vast chunks of information, but it's got to be checked. It's got to be checked. It's got to be checked. So, and again, having I think said earlier, I'm closer to the end of my career than I am to the start of my career. There might be an element that this is someone else's problem. I'm not going to overly worry about it. It's not going to impact me that much. But clearly, one has to be aware of it. I remain unconvinced, or if I'm on the fence, I'm on the unconvinced, more on the unconvinced side of the fence than I am. But it possibly wouldn't take much necessary to push me over and think, oh, actually, no, that is working. So I think we're still a bit of a suck it and see.
Yeah.
But again, it feels, dare I say, old school fuddy duddy. Feels a bit like cheating.
Yeah.
And copying, and does
No,
the human writing the prompt understand the prompts they were
exactly. Yeah.
the subject, and have they got the capacity, the experience, the knowledge to check that the output from the AI is correct, and be prepared prepared for the backlash if it's not correct.
Yeah. I mean, we use AI for research. We use the prompts because we find it a good way to source. But even then, we always check the sources, don't we? Because we're still of, well, I'm speaking on behalf of you, so please jump in. But I'm still of the view that it does feel a little bit like it's, like you said, cheating almost. And I might read it and it sounds great, but I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I'm not 100% comfortable with it yet. And so I go back and I investigate it to make sure, like, if I was scrutinized wholly, can I stand by this piece of copy that I am submitting? I always want that reassurance that I can, because I've had that involvement in creating that copy, whether it be a press release or research or an article. So I don't know how you feel about the use of AI in journalism and PR.
Probably leaning towards the consensus. Research, master's finished. Didn't use it for that as such, but it's more looking at journals. You can say, I'm looking at an argument about this, and I've got 20 journals. Can you pick out, and it'll show you a section, and go and read it.
Right.
If I'm pitching to you, and I know specifically you're into a particular thing, I'd say, right, because I really want to get in Justin's publication, and with a particular prompt, and read this website, and does my copy I've written, does a section of this sort of match that tone? And then it might give some prompts, and I can go back in it and go, right, let's tweak what we've got. So there's little things like that it's helpful. I
Yeah,
wouldn't
we've
say,
definitely used it for that. So
Yeah.
when going back earlier to about
Yeah.
journalist engagement and trying to understand what works for them, so we will fill it with articles that's been written by specific journalists and journalists that we want to know and
Yeah.
understand, and say, give me a summary of these last any common themes of these
Yeah.
last 10 articles or however many articles. Give me some common themes. What does the journalist focus on? What's the style that they like?
Yeah.
And then we can use that summary to
Yeah.
then craft our pitch to
So
resonate
when we
with
give
them.
you a synopsis to say, are you interested in a collab on this? You'd be like, yeah, because Justin likes a stat or a definitive whatever. So for that, yes. Pure content creation, no, it'll never because it's too because
It's reliant on what gets put into it, I always think.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
And where
really
it- and where it
cynical about
pulls
those
its
LinkedIn
sources
things.
from.
You've been selected as an expert, have I?
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
But again, I think
RAI has drawn your name out of the hat.
and it says you're an expert in the no, but I think it's using it again. This goes right back to the beginning. It's about knowing about people and being curious about what you're doing. I think as long as we can do that, then it's good.
Yeah. Well, it kind of leads us on nicely to closing this on. It's been wonderful talking to you, Justin. Very thankful for sparing the time.
My pleasure.
Next month's podcast will be about the use of AI in PR and also with SEO, because there's a shift of how people are searching now on Google with the AI generated snippets.
Yes. Yeah.
And there is a rising trend because a lot of the AI engines looking for branded search and branded names in high domain authority websites, well respected but independent and verified websites. And what are they? They're generally publication news outlets.
Yeah.
And PR is very good at having brand placement in those publications. So in the world of AI search, the need for great PR is becoming even more important. So we're going to be digging into that in our podcast next month.
We shall unpack that next month.
We shall indeed. Well, thank you very much, Justin.
Thank you,
again.
Justin.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
No, thank you for having
Anthony.
me on.
Thank you very much.
And until next time.